Hi, I'm Paul Brodie. We're back in the shop. Man behind the cameras, his name is Mitch. Thank you. I'm here to talk about big bore motors because I used to have a big bore motor and then I didn't have a big bore motor. So I was looking at my notes, and this goes back to 2002, quite a while ago. And it took me 3 years off and on to build this big bore motor. I had a company called Aramaki Northwest, and I was making Aramaki race parts and selling race parts. I was getting parts from a friend in Germany. His name is Rudolph, and I'm not sure how I got introduced to him. I've never met him. We did emails, phone calls, things like that. So he was selling me Aramaki parts that got made over there in Germany. And he started to talk about a big bore motor. So I got interested. And he gave me all the information I needed, and he sold me some parts like a bigger piston and a liner, things like that. So that's how the idea started. So by 2005, I had my race bike, and I had the big bore motor in it. So in the spring, I went to Seattle Raceway, did a couple races there, got a good position there. I got first in both races. And then a couple weeks later, I headed down to Sears Point. So this was really the first big race for the bike. And we lined up on the grid. There was 18 of us. That's a large grid for 500 vintage. And we took off, and one guy was gone. I found out later that he was the local hot shot, and he had a Absaf 500. You could look that up if you don't know what it is. And so I got second place, and that was great. And Mitch is going to show you a photo of the bike. This is the last photo of the bike that ever got taken, because that night up in Brookings, Oregon, stayed in a motel, and the whole van got taken. So that was the last I ever saw of the bike, all my stuff, my tools, my parts, spares, everything. So I did not have a big bore motor after that. And up here, a little while ago, maybe a couple months ago, I was looking through my Aramaki notes, and I got a Post-it, and Dave's name is on the Post-it, and his email address, phone number, and it says that he has a couple electric start motors. So I thought I better give this guy a call. I might have had this Post-it note for years, maybe 5 years, 10 years. I don't even know how long I had it. So anyway, I got hold of Dave, and he says that, yes, I got a motor that I could sell you. So it ended up being this motor here. We agreed on a price of $350 US. He's in Washington. So my next problem was how to get the engine up here. I got a friend I met in race school. His name is Dean, and he lives in Washington, and he comes up here because part of his sales territory is BC. So he brought it up last week. At the border, the woman says, "Why are you up here? Why are you coming up here?" And he says, 3 things. I got 2 meetings, and I got a parts motor in the back. She says, "How much is the motor worth?" He says, $350. She said, "Have a great day." So that was really easy. So thank you, Dean. And here's the motor. It didn't come with a piston. It had no head studs, no push rods, but it's the basics of what I want. So it's got a good head and a barrel. And what we're going to do today is to take the motor apart and see what's inside of it. I won't be using the left case or the right case. I've got another case off an older model, which is more suitable to what I want. And thanks for joining us. We're going to get this motor apart. All right, here's the left crankcase, and I've cut off the top. and I've started to work on it. I guess I needed an extra thread there, so I glued on this piece of aluminum here and then cut the thread. I've milled out this and I've made an aluminum insert and I've glued it in so that basically this looks like the older style of crankcase. And why I'm using these is because the bearing in here on the left side is much larger than on the previous one. So that's why you want to use this 73-74 crankcase, is because when you've got the big bore, you've got a heavier piston and rod and more force. So I'm told that the earlier ones, they don't stand up. You need the big bearing. And then here's the crankcase assembled, and you can see I've got my ignition on there, and that's what the end result looks like. And see that there's a plug in there because that's where the shifter shaft comes through, but we're not using left side shifting, we're using right side, so it gets plugged up. Okay, here's a earlier crank assembly, and this is the one off the electric start, and the shafts are much longer, so they have to be cut down. So here I've got it in the lathe, and I'm turning the end down. I think what I might have to do is to heat it up, put it in lime, let it cool to make it softer so that I can machine it. So I'm going to experiment with that. What gets used in the engine is a Yamaha rod. It's a Yamaha 600 rod, and I need to order that, and the crank pin, the bearings and all that. So it's a little heavy, so I milled it down in the mill. Here I got it up in the rotary table, and I'm taking some metal off the small end of the rod. But anyway, there's a bunch of work that goes into making this rod work in here. And the reason that it's a good rod is because it's got a 35mm crank pin that goes down through here. The stock one is 30, so it's a beefier rod. It lasts a lot longer. Here's some fixturing that I made up, because when you put in a bigger bore, and the bore is going to go from 74mm to 79, so it's a 5mm increase in the bore, and it takes the size of the motor from a 350 up to a 392. So this is the fixturing that I made up, and I can't exactly remember how I used it, but I put the head on the rotary table, and I move it 1 degree, or actually a little bit less than 1 degree, and I move the valve seat away. Then you can put a larger valve in because the piston is larger and the bore is bigger. So that's another thing that has to happen, changing the intake valve angle. So it's set up on the mill, and what I'm doing here, I change the valve angle, and then I have to recut the seat, and then you make a larger valve seat as well. So this is the third photo in the series of how that happened. Oh, this is interesting. It's a push rod, and when you're changing things around and the cylinder becomes shorter and you mill the head, it's hard to know what length of a push rod you want. So I made an adjustable push rod, and that lets me know what the length is, and then I can make the real push rod the same length. So that's one of the things I did there. So I'm using a larger piston as well, and this was a cutaway I did. I took a cylinder head and I cut it right in half, and you can see a cross section, and that's the larger piston I got. It's a Ducati piston. I don't think I'm using a Ducati piston this time. And you can see how I had to open it up here to put the larger valve in there. And I'm milling out the pocket for the valve there. I contacted Dave, and like I said, we agreed on a price and that. So I'm lying in bed. It's like, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I can't sleep, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with that motor? I just thought I would buy it because electric start motor. And then I'm thinking, oh, I could build a big bore motor. That would be pretty cool. So that's how the idea started, me lying in bed, unable to sleep, thinking about motors. And then I thought, well, what I did last time when I made a big bore motor, I put it in my race bike. But then, you know, the race bike's not getting used, so it would just sit there. Maybe every so often I would fire it up, but then where am I going to ride the bike? So then I thought, I got the red Aramaki. I could put the big bore motor into here, and I could use it on the street because it can be licensed. So that's how the project has evolved. Big bore goes into the red Aramaki, and I can ride it on the street. So it's going to be a pretty fast motor for a small bike. I'm pretty psyched. I looked in the manual. It does not say how to take off the flywheel, but I found a couple holes. I made a puller, and let's see what happens. Oh, that was pretty decisive. Oh, bit of rust. This stuff doesn't get used anymore. It goes in my box of bad parts. Oh, there comes the oil. I did drain most of the oil, but there's going to be some. I like taking things apart. When I was really young, this is what I was told when I was maybe 3 years old, and my father had a box of electrical stuff, switches, I don't know, whatever, and I took them all apart, and he never could figure out how to put it all back together again. That's part of my history. All of these engines had problems with the electric starter. And if you look at here, can you see how this is? See that screw there? See how it's got a twist to it? This starter had a problem too. Okay, that worked. Yeah, there goes the WD. Normally they just slide off. Oh, that's going to be hot. This whole cover should come off. Ooh, it looks fairly clean. There's a little bit of grunge in the bottom. I made a special wrench. It's a good fit. No, it's not. Yeah, the nut's not even tight. So Oh, one sort of got bent up. That's the locking tab. And the sprocket's definitely worn, so it got some use. Oh, it's coming apart pretty easy. Okay, needle bearings in there. That's a nice touch. Okay, electric starter's out. Okay, we're moving on to this side now. Look at all the dirt coming out of there. Oh, I think there was a clutch problem. Look at all the, it's part of the lining or something. So if you look here, see it all in the bottom? I think there was a clutch issue going on. Oh, oh, it broke my tool. Broke my tool. That's how rusted they are. I thought I'd just pop this all off and it would be good. This one's tight, definitely tight. Well, what I can do as a last resort, take it over to the TIG welder and you weld on a tube. And then you got something to hold on to. I did not think I would have to do that. I got a stainless rod. That works really well on hard metals. Oh, it broke the stud inside. What happened is the stud broke inside because there's the nut. It's not hot. See that? There's the broken stud. Oh, okay, same thing. Broke the stud. That's how rusted the... Okay, well, that's okay. Because we're moving forward now. This should just should fall off, basically. Wow. If I put a rod through, I can knock that out. Why don't we try that? Wow, that's amazing. Oops. This is basically what it is. And all that's holding it on, this has glued itself onto the clutch plate. It should just, what usually happens is you take out the 5 nuts and springs, it falls off because there's nothing else holding it on. So what I'm hitting on is the pin that comes here. So it should just pop off, but it's firmly glued. So I'll put some heat on it and we'll see what happens, but never seen anything like that. Something's been happening. It's been underwater or something. It's glued. Never seen anything like it. I don't get it, why it's on there so tight. There's no way to really get a purchase in there. Well, due to unforeseen circumstances, like a stuck clutch, I have to give up for one day. So sometime in this week, I will get this off somehow, and I'll take photos to show you how I did it. I thought the motor was all going to come apart today, so I guess this is a 2-part video getting the motor apart. That's unexpected, but thank you for watching, and we appreciate your support. Mitch and I like coffee. We have merchandise for sale. Please subscribe. See you next time.